Whether you like it or not, believe it or not, or want to recognize it or not, African Americans are incarcerated at a much higher rate than any other race. The cause of this higher rate of incarceration is due to racial stereotypes about African American crimes committed and a generalization that all African Americans who are accused of crimes are guilty. In To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Tom Robinson, who is an African American male, is accused of raping a white woman by the name of Mayella Ewell. His trial was extremely unfair due to the town's views towards minorities, and Tom was eventually found guilty due to the color of his skin and not evidence of the crime taking place. Society today is guilty of such actions as African Americans are often assumed guilty instead of being innocent until proven guilty. The court system in our society and for many generations before us was based on the idea of equal and fair treatment in the court of law. The idea is that all people in the court of law receive a fair trial regardless of gender and race. Although the right to a fair trial should be guaranteed for all people regardless of race and gender, America has painted a very different picture with its statistics of incarcerated people.
The racial composition of the prison population in the United States is very different from the population at large. If people are worried about inequality in America today, I think this deserves more attention in the discussion. Racial inequality in the criminal justice system gets ignored because it doesn't affect most people. In 2010, over 1.6 million people were in state and federal prisons within the United States. So 497 out of every 100,000 Americans were in jail. About half of 1%. Less than 1%. That doesn't seem very large, but when you separate that population by race, you recognize that the personal effects of the criminal justice system are very unequally shared throughout our society. Whites make up 64% of the total population, but only 31% of the incarcerated population. Blacks represent 14% of society, but 36% of the prison population. Hispanics are 16% of America, but 24% of the American prison population. Less than 1 in 100 Americans are currently in jail, but for some races, genders, and age groups, that ratio is a lot larger. For example, if you're young, black, and male, it's closer to about 1 in 4. That means you'd have a higher probability of going to jail than of getting married or going to college.
A man in Georgia was sent to trial with a racist jury as the fate of Keith Tharp was entrusted into the hands of a juror who was unconvinced he, as a black person, had a soul. This seems to fall short of the impartial jury guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. Minorities are targeted before they even reach the courtroom, as they are killed at a much higher rate than non-minorities by the police. Officers commonly say they feel threatened when arresting minorities, which in most cases should not be the case, as most are unarmed at the time of the arrest. In To Kill a Mockingbird, these same bad perceptions of minorities can be seen that are subconsciously or consciously carried out today. Atticus displays this racism as he describes what the issue is in Tom Robinson's case, as he says, "She was white and she tempted a Negro. She did something that in our society is unspeakable. She kissed a black man, not an old uncle, but a strong young Negro man. No code mattered to her before she broke it, but it came crashing down on her afterwards." Of course, not all African Americans are innocent or other minority groups, but instead of focusing on the race of the man or woman, society needs to remember that it's not just African Americans, Latinos, Asians, or Caucasians committing crimes, but all of society is committing crimes. Not everyone agrees and acknowledges the unfair treatment of African Americans in the court of law. Some people argue that African Americans have earned this reputation of guiltiness due to the high crime rates seen within underprivileged neighborhoods, which are primarily comprised of minority groups. No minority should be assumed guilty purely based on the fact that they are a minority. All humans, regardless of race, should have equal opportunities and equal treatment without the thought of their race affecting their innocence. Equality in the court of law and equality when dealing with law enforcement are crucial to preventing the issue of prejudice which hurts so many in this nation.